It was December 1949 in Pennsylvania, and I was standing alone on a hill overlooking the football field at Pencey Prep. Down there, everyone was gathered around the field, watching the final game of the school year. I wasn't. I had already decided I didn't want to be part of it. Maybe that was the problem with me. I always felt like I was standing somewhere outside of everything. Looking in, that afternoon, I had just returned from New York with the fencing team. I was supposed to be the captain, but I'd left all of our equipment on the subway. Every piece of it. So the team couldn't compete, and we had to turn around and go back. Everyone blamed me. No one spoke to me on the way home. I suppose I deserved it. But honestly, I couldn't bring myself to care very much, because I already knew something worse was waiting for me. I had been expelled. I had failed 4 out of 5 subjects, and soon my parents were going to find out. I hated Pencey anyway. Everyone there seemed so fake. People pretending to be important, pretending to care, pretending to be something they weren't. And maybe I was no different. I just wasn't very good at pretending. Before leaving, I decided to say goodbye to my history teacher, Mr. Spencer. He wanted to talk about my future. He told me I wasn't taking school seriously. He kept asking me what I was going to do with my life. I didn't really have an answer, because while he was talking about my future, I was thinking about something completely different. The ducks. The ducks in the lagoon in Central Park. Every winter, when the water froze, I wondered where they went. Did someone take them somewhere? Did they simply disappear? Where did they go when the place they called home became impossible to live in? I couldn't explain why that question stayed in my head. Maybe because, in some strange way, I understood the ducks. When everything around you changes, where are you supposed to go? After leaving Mr. Spencer's house, I returned to the dormitory. I put on a new hunting hat I'd bought. I tried to read. I tried to forget everything. But that night was only the beginning, because I was about to leave Pencey behind. And for the next few days, I would wander through New York, meeting people, running away from people, looking for someone I could talk to, and trying desperately to figure out where I belonged. I didn't know it yet, but I wasn't really running away from Pencey. I was running away from growing up. I went back to my room after leaving Mr. Spencer. I put on the new hunting hat I'd bought and tried to read. I didn't get very far. Someone from the room next door came in. Ackley. I never liked having him around. He had these habits that irritated me, and his personal hygiene was terrible, but I couldn't exactly throw him out. I was already tired of people, tired of the school, tired of pretending that everything was normal. Then my roommate came back, Stradlater, and suddenly the room felt even smaller. He was getting ready for a date. I didn't think much of it at first, until he told me who the girl was. Jane Gallagher. That name changed everything. I knew Jane, and I liked her, maybe more than I wanted to admit. So I started asking Stradlater questions. Where were they going? What were they going to do? What was she like? But Stradlater didn't seem interested in anything I had to say. He just wanted me to write his English composition for him. And somehow I agreed. I wrote about my little brother Ali. Ali had died 3 years earlier from leukemia. He had been one of the most important people in my life. I still remembered his baseball glove. He had written poems on it in green ink so he could read them whenever he wanted. I couldn't write about some stupid school topic, so I wrote about that glove, about Ali, about the little brother I had lost. Writing about him brought everything back. The sadness, the anger, the feeling that something inside me had been broken and never really repaired. I stayed awake waiting for Stradlater to come back. Not because I cared about his stupid composition. I was thinking about Jane. I knew Stradlater. He had been with plenty of girls before, and I didn't trust him. When he finally came back, I asked him what had happened. He wouldn't tell me. Then he criticized the composition I'd written. He called it a bad assignment because I hadn't followed what he wanted. Something inside me snapped. We argued. The argument became a fight, and Stradlater beat me badly. But strangely, the pain wasn't the worst part. The worst part was knowing that once again, I had tried to hold on to something I cared about. And once again, I couldn't protect it. That night, I made my decision. I was leaving Pencey. I wasn't going to wait until Wednesday for my parents to receive the official letter. I packed my things. I walked out of the dormitory, and I headed for the train station. I thought I was finally escaping everything, but I didn't understand yet. I was carrying all of it with me. I left Pencey before anyone could stop me. I had been expelled anyway, so what difference did a few days make? I packed my things, walked to the station, and got on a train headed for New York. I thought leaving Pencey would make me feel better. It didn't. On the train, I met a woman named Mrs. Morrow. Her son went to Pencey. I didn't particularly like her son, but I liked talking to her. So I did what I always did. I lied. I told her wonderful things about her son. I made him sound like someone I admired. She believed me. And for a little while, I enjoyed watching her believe the story I had invented. Maybe that's what I was good at. Making people believe things that weren't true. When I finally arrived in New York, I checked into a hotel. Then I stood there alone in my room. And suddenly I wanted to call someone. Anyone. I thought about the people I knew. People I hadn't spoken to in a long time. People I wasn't even sure I liked. I just didn't want to be alone. I called a girl named Faith Cavendish. She was supposed to be someone who knew how to have a good time. I asked if she wanted to meet me. She couldn't. So I was alone again. I went downstairs to the lavender room. The waiter wouldn't serve me alcohol because I was underage. So I sat with 3 women instead. I danced with them. I paid for their drinks. I tried to talk to them. But the whole thing felt empty. They were there. I was there. And somehow none of us were really together. When the bar closed, I still didn't want to go back upstairs. I couldn't stop thinking about Jane. So I took another taxi to a different bar. There I met Lillian Simmons. She had once dated my older brother. She wanted to sit with me. I didn't want her there. So I lied again. I told her I was waiting for someone. She believed me. Then I realized I couldn't stay without eventually being exposed. So I left. I walked back to the hotel alone. And that's when the elevator operator, Maurice, offered to send a girl to my room. I agreed. A girl named Sunny came upstairs. I thought I wanted what everyone seemed to expect a 17-year-old boy to want. But when she actually stood there in front of me, I couldn't do it. I felt awkward, uncomfortable. I just wanted to talk. Sunny realized I was younger than she had expected. She left. A little later, Maurice came back with her. He demanded more money. And when I refused, things got worse. After they left, I barely slept. The next morning, I woke up exhausted. I had spent only one night in New York, and already I was beginning to understand something. I had left Pencey because I wanted to escape everyone. But now that I was alone, all I wanted was someone to talk to. I only slept for a few hours. When I woke up, I called Sally Hayes. We had dated before. She liked me, and I thought she was attractive. But the truth was, I still couldn't stop thinking about Jane. I asked Sally to meet me that afternoon and go to a show. She agreed. So I checked out of the hotel and went to Grand Central Station. I put my luggage in a locker and found a little sandwich shop for breakfast. There, I talked with two nuns. I liked them. They seemed different from most of the people I had been meeting. So I gave them some money before I left. I still had 2 hours before meeting Sally. And as usual, I didn't really know what to do with myself. Then I heard a little boy singing. For some reason, it made me feel better. It was strange. Sometimes the smallest things could pull me out of a bad mood. I bought a record for Phoebe, my little sister. I wanted to give her something when I saw her. Then I tried calling Jane. Her mother answered. I hung up. I couldn't bring myself to say anything. After that, I bought 2 tickets to the show. Then I went to Central Park. I was hoping I might find Phoebe there. She sometimes went skating in the park on Sundays. But she wasn't there. I asked another little girl if she knew where Phoebe might be. She suggested the Museum of Natural History. So I went there. I had loved that museum since I was a kid. There was something about it that I couldn't explain. Everything inside seemed to stay the same. The exhibits didn't change. The world outside changed constantly. But inside that museum, everything stayed exactly where it was. I liked that. Maybe because I was afraid of change. But when I finally arrived, I couldn't even go inside. So I went to the hotel and waited for Sally. The date started well. We talked. I even told her that I loved her. But then I started talking about society, about how much I hated the modern world, about how I didn't want to become like everyone else. And suddenly I had an idea. I asked Sally to run away with me. We could live in a little cabin in the woods. I'd find a job at a gas station. We wouldn't need much money. We wouldn't have to go to college. We wouldn't have to become the kind of adults I hated. For a moment, I thought Sally might understand. She didn't. She told me to go to college, get a good job, become a normal person. I got angry. I called her a pain. Then I walked away. Once again, I had pushed away someone who actually cared about me. I tried calling Jane again. No answer. So I called Carl Luce, an old friend, and asked him to meet me for a drink. When he arrived, I started asking him personal questions. Too many questions. He looked at me like there was something seriously wrong with me. Eventually, he told me I should see a psychiatrist. Then he left, and I stayed there drinking. I didn't want to be alone, but somehow I kept ending up alone. By the time I left the bar, I was completely drunk. I had already tried calling Sally. It was around 1 in the morning, and I told her I wanted to come over and trim the trees at her house. I don't know why I said that. Maybe I just wanted to hear her voice. Maybe I wanted someone to tell me I wasn't completely alone. Sally told me to go to sleep and call her again later. That was probably the sensible thing to do. But I wasn't feeling very sensible. I tried to make myself sober by putting my head under cold water. It didn't work. I only ended up colder and wetter. Then, when I left the bar, I dropped the record I'd bought for Phoebe. It broke. I stood there looking at it. That stupid little record. I'd bought it because I wanted to give something to my sister. And now even that was gone. I had nowhere else to go. No money. No real plan. So, I started walking toward Central Park. There was something I needed to know. The ducks. I wanted to see what happened to them when the lake froze. Where did they go? Did they leave? Did someone take them somewhere? Did they simply find another place to live? I don't know why I cared so much, but I did. Maybe because I felt like I was doing the same thing. The place I had known was disappearing. Pencey was gone. My childhood was disappearing. Ollie was gone. And I couldn't figure out where I was supposed to go next. I walked through the cold streets toward the park. And for the first time that night, I stopped looking for somebody to call. I just wanted an answer. Where do you go when the place you belong to disappears? I never found the ducks, but I did find my way home. And I knew I couldn't simply walk through the front door. My parents would be there. They knew I had been expelled. So I had to sneak inside. Fortunately, they had gone to a party. And then I saw Phoebe, my little sister. She was genuinely happy to see me. For a moment, everything felt different. Then she looked at me and realized something was wrong. She knew I had been expelled. I tried to explain myself, but Phoebe didn't want excuses. She told me I didn't like anything anymore. And then she said something that stopped me. She asked me why I had changed so much since Ali died. I didn't have an easy answer, but maybe I finally understood what I had been trying to do all along. I told her I wanted to be the person standing at the edge of a cliff, the person who catches children before they fall. I didn't want to stop them from growing. I just wanted to stop them from falling into the world before they were ready. Phoebe looked at me, and for once, I couldn't hide behind another lie. Phoebe was the only person who could make me stop pretending. She knew I had been expelled. She knew I was miserable. And she knew that ever since Ali died, I had started acting as if I hated everything. Maybe she was right. I didn't know what to tell her. So I told her about the one thing I thought I could do with my life. I wanted to stand at the edge of a cliff and catch children before they fell. That was all I wanted. To keep them from falling. To keep them from becoming people like the adults I hated. Phoebe didn't think it was a real job. Maybe it wasn't, but it made sense to me. Then she reminded me of the problem waiting at home. Our parents were going to find out I had been expelled. I couldn't face them. So I called my old English teacher, Mr. Antonini. I told him I couldn't go home. He invited me to his apartment. Before leaving, I took some money from Phoebe and promised I'd pay her back. Then I took a taxi across town. I was exhausted. I barely had the energy to think. Mr. Antonini tried to help me. He told me that I needed to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. Whatever it was, he said, I had to keep learning. He told me that other people had been lost too. Other people had struggled and eventually found their way. I listened. At least I tried to. But I was too tired. Eventually, he prepared the sofa so I could sleep. I fell asleep. Then I woke up. Mr. Antonini was sitting beside me. He was watching me and touching my hair. I became frightened. I didn't know what he wanted. So I made an excuse and left. I walked back toward Grand Central Station. That was where I had left my luggage. I had nowhere else to go. And by morning I felt worse than ever. I was tired, confused, and completely fed up. So I made another decision. I was going to leave New York. Actually, I was going to leave everything. I would go somewhere far away. I would never have to see my parents again. Never have to go back to school. Never have to explain myself to anyone. Before leaving, I wanted to say goodbye to Phoebe. I planned to leave her a letter at school and meet her at the museum. I wanted to give her back the money I had taken. And then I would disappear. But when Phoebe arrived, she wasn't alone. She was carrying a suitcase. She wanted to come with me. She wanted to leave too. And suddenly, I couldn't do it. I couldn't take her with me. We argued. She was angry. I was angry. But then I looked at my little sister standing there with that suitcase, and I realized something. I had spent all this time wanting to escape, but Phoebe wasn't asking me to escape. She was asking me to stay. Beat 7. She made me stay. Phoebe was still angry with me. She stood there with that suitcase, ready to leave everything behind. But I couldn't let her come with me. I had been running away from my life. I couldn't drag her into it. So I told her I wasn't leaving anymore. I promised her. And for once, I meant it. We went to the zoo. It wasn't some magical day. Phoebe was still upset with me. But at least she was with me. After a while, I took her to the carousel. She climbed onto one of the horses. Then it started moving, round and round. I stood there watching her, and something inside me became quiet. For the first time in days, I wasn't thinking about Pencey. I wasn't thinking about my parents. I wasn't thinking about Sally, or Jane, or all the people I thought were phonies. I was just watching my little sister ride around on that carousel. She looked happy, and somehow I was happy too. Maybe I didn't need to run away. Maybe I didn't need to find some perfect place where nobody would disappoint me. Maybe I just needed to stay, to try, to grow up without becoming the person I was afraid I would become. Not long after that, I got sick. I ended up in the hospital, and that's where I am now. Looking back at everything that happened that winter, I still don't have all the answers. I don't know exactly where I'm going. I don't know what I'll become, but I'm going back to school. And this time, I'm going to try. Maybe that's all I can do. Try. Because maybe growing up isn't about becoming someone you hate. Maybe it's about learning how to live in a world that isn't perfect without running away from it. And maybe those ducks in Central Park didn't need me to find them an answer after all. Maybe I was the one who needed to find my way home. Looking back now, I still don't know exactly what was wrong with me. Maybe I was angry. Maybe I was lonely. Maybe I was just afraid of growing up. I spent those days running from one place to another, looking for someone who could make me feel less alone. But every time someone tried to reach me, I pushed them away. Until Phoebe. She didn't fix my life. She didn't give me all the answers. She simply refused to let me disappear. And maybe that's what I needed. I had spent so much time thinking about where the ducks went when the lake froze. Now I think I understand why that question stayed with me. I wasn't really asking about the ducks. I was asking where I would go when my own world changed. I still don't know the answer. Maybe growing up doesn't mean becoming one of the people I hated. Maybe it means accepting that the world is complicated, people are imperfect, and some things cannot be kept exactly the way they were. Ollie is still gone. Pencey is behind me. The people I thought I needed are still somewhere out there. And I can't go back to being a child. But I can keep going. Maybe that's enough. Maybe finding your way isn't about knowing where you're going. Maybe it's simply deciding not to run anymore. If Holden's story made you see the catcher in the rye differently, like the video and subscribe to Through Their Eyes. Here, we don't just summarize classic books. We tell the story through the eyes of the character who lived it. And if you want to experience Holden's complete story with all the details that a retelling can never capture, you can find The Catcher in the Rye through the link in the description. Until the next story, see it through their eyes.